Now, I like everyone, Daniel Andrews in China, fair dinkum. I agree, by the way, with those that have said he's a has-been, and to some degree you might end up spending too much time talking about this. But he couldn't give a stuff what the public's opinion is. After all, he's the guy who locked everyone in for the longest period of time in the world. He's a bloke who ran a government whose very own decisions were responsible for 99% of the COVID cases and thus the COVID deaths when they decided to put the old private security in hotel quarantine. He then turned around and, of course, got a gold medal for an OAM, services to public health. He's now always been a person who's been trying to backdoor China into Australian infrastructure. Thankfully, we had a government that said no to it at the time. But what about the Prime Minister? Here he was a couple of days ago trying to pretend nothing to see here when we can all see what's there to see and how disgusting it is that he was there.
What do you think of Dan Andrews joining a line of people greeting President Xi at this parade, which includes Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un?
Well,
do you like that Dan Andrews and Bob Carr are there?
He's not meeting them, as I said.
And don't you love the way this works, right? When they're on their team, no criticism whatsoever. You know, all of those people down there in Canberra, they've got so many opinions about, if Donald Trump shakes the hand of Vladimir Putin, but the attitude towards the president of China and the CCP is a complete let-off. And Daniel Andrews will just be the latest in a long list of people who will seek to get their pound of flesh and their bag of coins for facilitating a better relationship between the CCP and Australia. The CCP made it very clear that they plan on being the dominant country in the world. And there are too many people in this country who are willing to make a fast buck out of it or exchange some quick votes. And then one day we'll all wake up and realise we're in the wrong place. And geez, how did we get here? I'll tell you how, through moments like this and how a Prime Minister reacts. How hard is it to say that your mate did the wrong thing, even if they're your best mate? When you're the Prime Minister, it's not about throwing him under the bus, it's about showing the world you know the difference between doing the right thing and the wrong thing. Well, here he was having another crack today.
My position is very, very clear, which is we did not send any government representative because it wouldn't have been appropriate. None of my team would have sat in that position. As simple as that.
Well, for his part, Daniel Andrews has put out a statement because, God forbid, you do a radio interview, television interview, anything like that. No, you do those with the Chinese local media, don't you, right? Here he goes. I was invited to Beijing for the 80th anniversary. No, you weren't, mate. That parade was about a celebration of the technology they currently have to win a war without firing a shot in World War III. But anyway, blah, 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 blah. He then goes on to say, just so there is no confusion, I have condemned Putin in his illegal war in Ukraine. Yeah, I bet that came up when you were on the same stage. And that's why he's had me banned from Russia. Further, my support for Israel and Australia's Jewish community has been outspoken and unwavering, and I unequivocally condemn Iran for its attacks on Australia. Anything to say about China and the slave labour of 1 million people, the Uyghurs? No, of course not. That's too difficult. It's a complicated relationship. Plenty have also made a suggestion that he should have to register as a foreign agent, i.e. Somebody who is doing work on the behalf of a foreign power. I think that's absolutely fair. I don't know what his paperwork's like, and the government is not exactly telling us if there's any paperwork in place. Meantime, an even more important story about China. Remember, in February of this year, when China was intimidating Australia ahead of our federal election, and they, of course, had the live fire exercise some 300 miles off the coast of Sydney. Yes, international waters, but still, pretty obviously, sending a little message. And, of course, they got the message they wanted, which was to keep the handsome boy in charge. Well, tonight, Channel 9, through the Freedom of Information process, which, of course, is one the government is planning to make harder, I'll get to that in a second, they have been able to get the audio of the Virgin pilot ringing it back into Sydney. These people are shooting, and they are not shooting blanks. Here's the first bit.
Rossi 161, we've just had a warning from a Chinese naval task force that they're doing a live firing exercise. Is anyone aware of that?
Our air traffic control was in the dark.
So they advise a level that they'll be firing to?
Negative, just within a 10 mile radius of that position. That was it.
Now, amazingly, despite the fact that they were in, potentially, a dangerous situation, this was an exchange between that pilot. And remember, without that pilot calling it in, the federal government never was going to talk about this. And even when they were exposed after the reporting of Andrew Probyn on Channel 9 about this very incident, they again tried to pretend nothing to see here, international waters. They didn't give us a tip-off, but they don't have to because it's international waters. Yet an Australian plane with Australian citizens was flying almost straight through the area where they were shooting. And were they aware of the danger? Oh, you bet.
Righto. If we go missing, we'll know what happened, eh?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, God love them for being calmer than you and I would be in that situation, but of course nobody on that plane would have known that that was what was going on. Now, they also were able to triangulate with a collection of other planes that were in the area about exactly how high were the munitions being fired by the Chinese naval vessels going into the air, and then, not that hard to work out, that it would have been able to hit a plane should a plane have been in the wrong place at the wrong time because the Chinese were doing whatever they wanted.
They are firing up to 15 kilometres in altitude within 10 miles of that reported position.
15 kilometres is 49,000 feet. With passenger jets flying around 35,000 feet, the pilots had reason to be concerned.
Seriously. If we go missing, you'll know why. Yet the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister at the time, nothing to see here, nothing to talk about it. The Prime Minister, post-election, straight off to China, thanks so much for calling me the handsome boy. Thanks to you so much for not putting the Australian trade head on a spike. Spent 6 days in China where, of course, he's reenacting everything Gough Whitlam did and pretending he was Richard Nixon opening the country up again. This is just outrageous. Oh, but don't talk about it because somehow you're offending people in Australia. No, we're not. The CCP is not the Chinese people. The CCP is not the Chinese people in Australia. The CCP is not the children of people who have come from China in Australia. The CCP are the people who want to take over the world.